Okay. Sci-Fi Podcast, which I'm recording actually a few days earlier than I usually do. And I'm doing this earlier because after I finished the last podcast, I said to myself, well, what am I going to work on? Or what's the next podcast that I'm going to do? And, I was thinking about it for a second. And then I felt this enormous amount of rage. And I went, aha! I know what I have to talk about. We got to talk about the Rocketeer. We have got to talk about the Rocketeer. Let's just get right into it. I'm not going to talk about sci-fi news. I'm not even going to look at the Wikipedia for Rocketeer. I'm too angry. I am too upset. Look, if you are a fan of the Rocketeer, I don't want to rain on your parade, okay? I don't want to take away something that was really important to your childhood. I don't want to do that. So this is the compromise we need to make. If you love the Rocketeer and you hold it dear to your heart, that's fine. But moving forward, we are not going to call it a superhero movie. We are going to call it a science fiction film. It is not a superhero movie. The Rocketeer is the worst superhero I've ever seen in my life. The worst superhero I have ever seen in my life. Because, near as I can tell, the Rocketeer is a guy who puts on a rocket jetpack, and that is it. That's it. There's nothing else. Especially in the movie version, not just, he's a pilot. But even then, I'm not sure if being a pilot, it kind of helps, kind of doesn't help with the rocket pack. I don't know. How do you defeat the Rocketeer? Well, be underground. I think that would be the first thing. Any evil villain with an evil lair that is underground, it's over. The Rocketeer, it's over. It's totally over. The Rocketeer would have to land, take off the rocket, and then climb underground. At which point he is no longer the Rocketeer, he is Jim. Just a guy. A guy with a coat. That's what he is. Rocketeer. Not a fan of this as a hero. Here's the other problem with the Rocketeer. As soon as the Rocketeer lands, he becomes a person with a giant gasoline-filled contraption on his back. And it seems to me that, one good bullet, one good puncture, and the Rocketeer is now liquefied. In fact, I was thinking about this. If I'm the villain and the Rocketeer lands in front of me and he's like, I'm going to stop you, and I take out a gun and I shoot him, I think the bullet would go through him and kill him. And if not, the bullet would then hit the rocket jetpack, blow up the rocket jetpack, and blow him up in the process, but I would be protected from the blast from his body. This is a terrible superhero. Terrible superhero. I'm not a fan of it. I can't abide. So the movie, I'm gonna do this without the Wikipedia. The movie is? Here's the notion that there's this rocket pack that's invented, and the Germans are after it. It takes place during World War II. It's either right before World War II or World War II. The rocket pack is invented, and the Germans are after it, and someone is running with it, and they frantically stash it near a hangar of where this pilot works. And this pilot is, of course, this bright-eyed, handsome-looking young man with Jennifer Connelly as a girlfriend, who's not quite ready to commit, or whatever the problem is that all these strapping young men have. That's something that just he's too. I don't know if he's too overconfident or whatever it is. It's the typical male thing. Finds this rocket pack. Oh, and he's got his sidekick is Alan Arkin. which, there's the movie. I'd rather Alan Arkin. Now, if Alan Arkin was the one who flew around with the rocket pack, then it would be a superhero movie, because Alan Arkin can do anything. Alan Arkin, he'll make it enjoyable. He'll do it with a sense of humor. That I would go for. But no, he's just the sidekick. At any rate, and I think there's a problem, like his plane's about to get repossessed, or there's not enough money to have the plane, or something like that. And it's a situation where, and that's right. Then he's got the girlfriend, Jennifer Connelly, but Jennifer Connelly is the struggling actress who is kind of flirting with the lead actor in a movie that she's in, played by Timothy Dalton, who turns out to be a Nazi in disguise. And he's the one who's after the rocket. And there's a lot of, golden age of Hollywood stuff going on, and a lot of, look, it's, Mickey Rooney, or it's, that kind of thing happening, where there's all these famous actors from the 1930s that are around in the movie. And I remember I saw the movie in the theater with my grandparents, and they loved that. Oh, look, it's, so-and-so. Oh, it's Mickey Rooney, blah, 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 blah. They were thrilled with that. I'm sitting there going, this is, what? All he does is fly in the rocket? Not well? That's the other thing, too. This is one of those situations where, so the guy finds the rocket. It's, hidden in laundry or something. And he's looking at it with Alan Arkin, and Alan Arkin is going, I think this is a rocket-powered jetpack. And the guy's going, that's interesting. We could do something with this. This is cool. And then there's an air show, and there's some kind of a situation where there's not enough money to fly in the air show, or something happens, and the main guy who's supposed to fly doesn't fly, and so this other guy who is older and possibly an alcoholic gets in the plane and takes off in the plane, and they're like, no, you shouldn't be flying. And then the main guy sees, oh my God, he's flying and he's out of control. I got to do something. All right, I'm going to put on the rocket. And he puts on the rocket, and he flies poorly and saves the day. But this is the first action sequence where he barely knows how to fly the rocket. So now I'm sitting there. My grandparents are going, oh, look at that. Look, that's great. That's cool. It's Spencer Tracy. And I'm sitting there going, can we get, oh God, now he's got to take an hour to learn how to use the rocket pack. Oh my God. Can we just go see Batman, please? Batman had it figured out by this point. Even in Batman Begins, when he's learning, I feel like he's competent. But this, now he's flying into a river, and he's flying into a pond, and oh my God, he flies through the wing of the plane, and oh, isn't this just silly because it's a Disney movie? Oh, ridiculous. Saves the guy, flies away. No one knows who he is because he's wearing this helmet. Now, one thing I will say about the Rocketeer, if you are fighting for this guy to be a superhero, the one thing I'm saying about the Rocketeer that is good is that he does wear a helmet that really does protect his identity. Too bad the coat and the pants that he wears are the coat and the pants that he wears when he is just walking around being himself. So that's great. It's, pretty much, if Peter Parker just puts on the Spider-Man mask, but he's still wearing, his Ramones t-shirt, it's not going to be too difficult for Mary Jane to go, come on, you're Spider-Man. What the crux of the rocket, the problem with this is that all he is, he's a guy who finds a rocket pack. That's all it is. He's just a guy who finds a rocket pack. He's just a guy who has a piece of transportation that is more advanced than what everyone else has. It would be like taking a Honda Fit, transporting it to the 1880s, and a guy finds it, and he starts using it as a method of transportation, and he becomes the Honda man. And that's his power, is that he's got a Honda Fit. And he can get there a little faster and a little bit more efficiently than everyone else. And now he's a superhero because he has a Honda. That's all this is. That is all this is. Now I'm going to jump to the climax of the movie. Because the climax of the movie is one of the greatest cinematic things I've ever seen in my life. Because I think the Nazis are after the rocket. I think the mob is after the rocket. The CIA everyone's after the rocket, as they are. And they're all at Griffith Observatory. And the Nazi is cornered. And so then, all of a sudden, the Nazi, I think, whistles. I believe he literally whistles. And suddenly, there are over 100 Nazis who converge. And a giant Nazi blimp in Los Angeles. Now, here's the point I want to make with this. If you have the ability to smuggle in hundreds of soldiers and a blimp into the heart of enemy territory in order to capture a rocket jetpack, I think you've won the war. I don't think you need the jetpack anymore. I think you're good. All you got to do is just move that over to Washington, D.C., and it's over. And suddenly it's the man in the high castle here. The climax of the movie then shifts to the blimp. And basically, the good guy and the bad guy get into a fist fight on the blimp. Which brings me to my ultimate frustration with the Rocketeer. If you're going to make a movie about a guy who wears a jetpack and flies around in the jetpack, the climax should involve the guy in the jetpack flying around in the jetpack! Should not involve a fist fight on a blimp. If anything, there should be a bad guy who also has a jetpack, and then the two of them have to dogfight in the air. That's the climax of a movie with a guy who wears a rocket as a jetpack! Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I almost feel like, Rocketeer, I challenge you to a duel. All right, and then they sword fight. It's practically that. This movie. But what I want to say, though, the point I'm trying to make here is that let's call it science fiction. He's a terrible superhero. Science fiction, I feel okay calling it science fiction because then it's the story about an idiot who finds a rocket pack and miraculously survives. Okay, he's got a futuristic form of transportation, so it's kind of a steampunk science fiction-esque sort of a thing. That I can buy. But superhero movie, unacceptable. Simply unacceptable. At the end of this movie, you don't see Nick Fury walking in going, let's join the Avengers. I think Nick Fury would walk in and go, stop it. Just stop it. Please stop it. And I know, there are people out there, they love the Rocketeer. The Rocketeer is their thing. The Rocketeer got me through hard times in my life. Fine. Like I said, we're going to call it a science fiction film. And we're going to go with that. But he's not joining the Avengers. He's not joining the Justice League. The Justice League would not be interested in him. Not remotely. They would take Shazam over him. And they have. Cannot begin to tell you how frustrating that movie is. Love the score. It's a great score. Everything else, beyond frustrating. Beyond frustrating. Well, this is only 13 minutes. Normally, this podcast is 30 minutes to an hour. I don't want to overstay my welcome on the Rocketeer, but I had to get that out. So I might add this. I might combine this. We'll see.